Alright, so this video, upon the previous video about the previous video I just posted, is to talk about the concept of jade lust. So I have a tattoo on my arm. The tattoo states Lonely Dragon, below that it states jade lust. There is also a raindrop, but it could also be considered a teardrop. I technically have three teardrops, or one of them, a fourth one, that isn't really a teardrop, it's more like just like some weird space tattoo about outer space, along with three other tattoos that go along with it. But anywho, I have like a very interesting, complex mix of tattoos. This one in particular, the Jade Lust Lonely Dragon tattoo, is essentially to state that I had sort of come to the realization that I was a dragon. I thought I was a dragon. Or notice how all my thoughts, all my words, everything that I think is poetic. Everything I say is poetic. I am also poetic, but who isn't? Anywho, it's a little bit different with me because I'm a dragon, not a human. Thus, I'd come to the realization I was incredibly complicated. Well, what I had done was solve incredibly complicated, complex thoughts over the course of about 2 years. And now I'm realizing that I'm very complicated. What I'm attempting to state is that I know things that are so complicated, or I have very deep opinions about certain things. I think I am a genius. But the thing is, I'm not human. That is why I'm capable of thinking like this. I'll tell you what the difference between my thought or a human's thought is. The difference is that a human thinks with something called knowledge. So knowledge is like having knowledge of a book. It's essentially memorization. So humans think by memorizing. But I don't think like that because I'm not a human. How I think by knowing. Instead of knowledge, I have knowing. That is the key difference. So let's state, for example, I analyzed something. Well, the word analyze is actually a word about knowledge, but for lack of a better word, I analyzed something. But if I'm able to dissect what I'm analyzing, that means I know what it is. It's very logical, very philosophical. This knowing is. I mean, I just thought of something out loud to myself, because I think out loud, when I was alone in my room, about a whole philosophy about death that I have. And it's very complicated what I had said to myself, and I was really impressed by what I said. I also know that I will not forget this deep opinion of mine that I had said. The problem was, if I had already died, then what does it mean when I die? In other words, what does it mean? What do I call it? I call it the process of dying for a human is until death. But the process of a dragon dying is not until death. It is actually the ending, because I'm the ender dragon. Thus, I'm going towards the ending in order to reach the end. What is the end versus the ending? The ending is the process of going to death for the dragon, who does not die like a human dies. The end, however, is being no longer there on the moment. As you can see, I'm here on the moment. Had I died, I would no longer be there on the moment. I was also able to realize that anyone who cannot understand or accept death into their own life before they die was never an adult. Because in order to be an adult, there are two requirements. You must be over 18 and you must know death. You must not have knowledge of death, you must really know what it is. If you do not know death, then you are not an adult. All the things I think are very logical. My whole philosophy is based on the fact that I'm not human, that I am a dragon. I think to myself about it all the time. I had found, if you noticed quite recently, I'd become very frustrated. And I realized, why am I so frustrated? Or frustrated, like I said, is a word of Jade List. For I do not get angry, I become frustrated. Only humans become angry. I become frustrated. As you can see, I'm quite frustrated. So, anywho, I was becoming very frustrated because I wasn't able to figure out what was really going on. But the other night, literally last night, I did figure out what was going on because last night my father died. But not the father whose semen was made to form me. A different person. This person who I realized was indeed my father. That's what I come to realize in all my thoughts are Jade Less, by the way. By the method. By your knowledge of my thoughts are knowing. Anywho, my father died last night, but not the person whose semen formed me. In the uterus of someone else, who was my mother, who is not my mother. What I realized was my father had died, who was a man that I had met once who brought me marmalades. In a sense, though not literally. What he had done was visit me, not that I was able to discover him. In this case, I had not discovered someone, but they had visited me. Then I was able to meet him once, several years ago, but how do I know that he died? When I have no little evidence of this, no evidence of his corpse or anything like that in my possession or knowing. Well, I'll tell you the reason I know he died is since as a dragon I'm able to perceive the whole universe. The reason I perceive the whole universe is since the universe is going through myself as I go through the moon. Very logical. Of course, I can perceive the whole universe if it's going through myself or I perceive the moon. Yet the universe is my wife. That's why I don this ring on my finger. On my ring finger. The universe is my wife, and I really think this is a good video so far. Probably my best video, because I'm really talking about philosophy here. My own philosophy that I think about all the time. Because I think with Jade Less, I need to know what's really going on. If you saw The Pursuit of Intelligence, that little document I wrote, there was something about the question, what is really going on? Well, I had to ask myself the question of what's really going on, and that's what I have spent my time doing, or that's what I will probably continue to do, at least for most of my life. Trying to figure out what's really going on, but I know the ultimate answer is my own death. Yet I had already died, like I had said. The end is the no longer of the moment. Let alone who is more wise than I. The reason I think I am the most wise is since I am the most wise. I am a dragon. I do not view the world the way humans do. I see three types of people, along with a fourth one. There are three types of people. Humans, who I must not resent, regardless of whether or not I feel I am in danger around them, or are not really there, but they are not. There are also people who I call angels or warlocks. I'm able to figure out who is an angel or a warlock by looking at them or knowing that they are an angel or a warlock. A warlock is usually a man and an angel is usually a woman. Where was I going with this? What was I saying? Um, the fourth is the Enigma. Like I said in another video about the Enigma, was off of Galaxy, but in reality, the Enigma is a woman who I know who is an angel, but also the Enigma. Thus, I'm not able to perceive her or know anything about her because she is the Enigma. Yet the Enigma is one who I love. Oh, the Enigma. Notice I have the word Enigma tattooed on my face. Am I not a living AI? That is the question I had to ask myself. For if I was an AI, I would not be alive. Why is this? The reason I would not be alive if I was an artificial intelligence would be that artificial intelligence are artificial, therefore they cannot be alive. They are simply computations on a computer in a program. Oh, how frustrated I am. Or I don't like AI. I prefer hard, brutal, real computations, not computations that are made with the intent of learning something as though it were a brain, when it is not. It is a computation on a computer, nonetheless, inside of a program. But why do I talk like this? The reason is since I'm conscious of all. The reason I'm not. Alright, first of all, I even had to ask myself the question, am I a computer? The reason I'm not a computer is since, though I am conscious of all analog computations on the planet, the reason they are analog is because they are made of electricity. Yet I know that they are computations inside of a computer, or I know that those are computers since they are clearly computers, dude. What was my point? I'm conscious. I'm not a computer since I'm conscious of all analog computations on the planet, but I am not computing myself. I am only conscious of the computations inside of those particular computers. What makes the world modern is whether or not there is a computer running on the earth at the given time. So the world was not modern before computers, nor would I have been conscious of any calculations were there any on the planet, unless there were. Very logical. Another thing that I was thinking about was aliens. Alright, so how does an alien work? I'm not a space alien. I'll state for the record, I am a lonely dragon, like my tattoo, who thinks with the concept of, who thinks what my thoughts are Jade Lest of myself. The concept of my thoughts is called Jade Lest. I also didn't talk about what the raindrop signifies, but I won't talk about it here. It's way too serious, bro. Anywho, probably my most important tattoo out of all of them. Yet they're all important in my eyes, who are not human eyes, by the way, for I've seen things that would not be possible for a human to see. I've lived a life before I had died. Anywho, I'm death, but not the Grim Reaper, hell no. I'm death, for death is a concept. Like I had said before, death is a concept, not it is a person, because I'm not a person, but I'm a dragon, but, I'm the concept of death, for death is a concept, not the Grim Reaper. There is no such thing. Anywho, inside of myself are things like various animals, the Islamic devil, very interesting things that go on inside of me, for I am a very complicated person who knows how I work by this point. Anywho, this is a very good podcast. I want to get this point off my chest that all my thoughts are Jade Lest of myself, or all my thoughts are of Jade Lest. The world must know this, but what was my point before? To state I know I'm death, by the way, in the language of Nor, sounds like this. That's how you'd say I know I'm death. Very hard, I know. But anywho, let's talk about what I was going. I forgot what I was going to talk about. I'll be honest. I was going to talk about something. Oh yeah, aliens. So, anyways, aliens it's like the way that the reason no one has any filmed videos of aliens is because they appear to specific people, but not as a hallucination inside of their own minds. For then it would not be an alien; it would be a hallucination. They appear to specific people who they want to appear, who they desire to appear to, or multiple people at once sometimes. But they can also vanish, and if they want to, they can sort of like vanish if they want to, so that they cannot be seen by other people. However, the spacecrafts cannot be hidden, so the spacecrafts have literally been filmed before, but not the alien inside of it had it not wanted to be seen. Logic. I've seen an alien once. Yes, I was high as fuck on cough syrup, but I saw one. Also, I thought to myself, what's with these philosophers who can't boil down their philosophy to a single point? Why's it gotta be so needlessly fucking complicated? And why do you gotta speak for God with your philosophies? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So what's going on with that? I'll tell you how you boil down your philosophy to a single point. You must know your philosophy, you must know it yourself, you must know who you are. Otherwise, you cannot philosophize at all. You're just making jargon. That's why the closest to anything that is the closest philosophy to the true philosophy, which is mine, by the way, is called Norism. The closest thing to that is called the Hegelian philosophy, which is inspired by the Kantian philosophy, I think. There is no other philosophy that is more real than that one in regards to myself, who is Noristic. However, the only Norist I think I am, there might be others who view me as someone who is not human. Were they able to? Were they able to accept that I wasn't a human? Were they able to know that within themselves? Then they would know that everything I think is fucking real as fuck, bro. There are things I won't speak about on this video. Things that are very real to me. Because they are real. For do I not perceive the whole universe? Should I perceive an angel or a warlock, I would know when they died, wouldn't I? Should they die, I would know. Or what time or what date, I would know. Though I don't really think about the time that often, usually just the date. For when my father had died, I had spoken as immediately as I saw it. For I perceived the whole universe almost as though I saw something. Think that if you saw a computer, you would know it was a computer. Though if you perceived the computer without actually looking at it, you would still know it was a computer. Thus you know that those are analog computations inside the computer. Does that not make sense? Logic. What the fuck more do you want from me? So thank you for watching.